Our schedule's publicly released. We don't put on the schedule every single moment
Will you
of the
show me
day
your
that
schedule
it's
to
publicly
prove
released.
your assertion
I'm
that
here
you
under
did
oath,
individualized
Senator.
review of
They're
781?
under oath telling you that I was reviewing this stuff and working on it almost every single day.
And the
Why?
problem
Because
with
when I
that-
was before this committee, I was asked by Senator Ricketts, if confirmed, would I immediately make this a top priority to go through all the grant funding going through EPA to make sure that we were cracking down on every waste, every aspect of abuse. Because I have to come back here in front of Senator Ricketts today. And even though you don't care about wasting tax dollars, Senator Ricketts does.
And the
I'm going to
problem-
do my job because the American public
And the
cares
problem-
about us not wasting tax dollars.
And the problem with your assertion here today is that it is belied by your own employees' sworn statements in court and by the decision of the
Senator,
Department of
you're not
Justice
grasping
to
the fact.
admit that what you
No,
say
you're
isn't
not grasping
true.
the fact that we would
Senator Sheldon Whitehouse didn't just confront EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, he cornered him. Numbers, dates, sworn statements, conflicting testimonies. And as each one hit the table, the walls started to close in. Because when a government official swears under oath that he personally reviewed 781 grants, Whitehouse wasn't interested in spin. He wanted proof, and he brought the documents.
Thank you. Senator Whitehouse.
Thanks very much. Administrator Zeldin, on April 23rd, Daniel Coogan, for the EPA, filed a sworn statement in court that said, and I quote here, EPA leadership conducted an individualized grant-by-grant review to determine which grants should continue. He made that statement under oath, and on the following page of his declaration, he said that there were approximately 377 grantees that had received cancellation notices and another 404 grantees who would receive notices within the next 2 weeks, for a total, by my math, of 781 total grantees. Do you dispute his testimony that there were 781 individual grants at issue?
the exact number I don't have offhand, but
But you don't
sounds like
dispute
could be
it. So
up
let's
front.
say that it's
And as far as the
781 or
individual
thereabouts.
reviews, I did those
So,
myself.
His testimony under oath was that that took place. Then, and I'd ask unanimous consent that that declaration of Daniel Coogan be made an exhibit. Then, on May 6th, Travis Voiles of EPA made the following statement, also under oath, also in a court filing. He said, on February 25th, 2025, I conducted an individualized review of EPA grant programs. That day, I decided that certain grant programs should be terminated for policy reasons. So there are three things about that Voiles statement that are noteworthy. First, the date. He said that he did this all on February 25th, which is interesting, because if he put in a 10-hour day, that's 600 minutes of time for 781 grant applications, which means he would have had to conclude his review of each of them in 45 seconds without even a bathroom break. The second thing about the statement is that he said, I conducted, not you conducted, Administrator Zeldin, not leadership conducted. He said he conducted, and he said that under oath. The third thing that was interesting is that he dropped in a weasel word, programs. He didn't say individualized review of grants. He said individualized review of grant programs. Mr. Zeldin, is there a difference between a grant and a grant program?
Well, you have individual grants inside of a grant program.
And you could have dozens or even hundreds of individual grants inside of a grant program,
I know
correct?
for a fact that Travis
Correct.
Voiles individually reviewed every single grant individually, and I know that I've reviewed every single grant individually, and I also know
That
that
is
Travis
not what the
Voiles was
sworn
work-
testimony indicates. Let me reclaim my time here.
But the fact
On
is,
May
we
16th
both individually reviewed all of the grants, and I know that he was working on it every single day, not just on one day.
Well, that's not what his sworn testimony was. And on May 16th, DOJ career lawyers who are under an obligation of candor to the tribunal, upon which their right to practice law depends, filed a pleading in federal court that conceded that you had not done individualized grant-by-grant reviews. They were not contesting that APA failed to do an individualized review. In court, they admitted, in fact, their language is, defendants do not contest judgment on the merits of plaintiffs' APA claims. I'd ask that the reply be put into the record, that the Voiles declaration be put into the record, and that an inside EPA news report that discusses that court proceeding be put into the record.
Without objection.
And then yesterday, you stated during your House E&C hearing that you personally reviewed all these grants. Here's what you said. I was the one who made the decision. And I made the decision after doing individual review. I personally reviewed every single grant that I canceled. Now, you guys are going to have to start getting your stories straight, because there are three completely different statements, and they cannot all be true. It cannot be that Voiles personally, himself, conducted the review of 781.
He did.
And that Coogan saw to it that it was individually done.
Others did. It's a crazy concept, Senator, but maybe more than one person was individually reviewing these grants. Maybe they were working on it for more than one day, Senator. Have you thought about that concept? What about the fact
when
that
their
when
testimony is that they did it all on one day? No, I do not.
Every single time.
I do not agree with that, Administrator.
Senator.
He swore in court that he did it on one day. So you can't now come in and say that that's false.
You make a decision on a day after you work on it, busting your ass for a while to get all of your ducks lined up.
That's
not what he said. To do all the research, to ask questions, to make sure you're making responsible decisions.
None of that is what he said.
Because you're not worried that there's going to be some ranking member at the
None of that is what he said.
Who doesn't care about the facts.
None of that is what he said. I'm using the facts as your employees
I
stated them.
I conducted an individual review of everything, and that concept doesn't work for you.
When did you conduct an individualized review of
781
grants?
We have a zero tolerance
policy. Will you show me your schedule?
Dollars. We inherit something. You don't care about wasting money.
Will you show me your schedule?
You don't care about wasting money, but the Trump administration does, Senator.
Will you show me your schedule?
Our schedule's publicly released. We don't put on the schedule every single moment of the day.
Will you show me your schedule to prove your assertion that you did individualized review of 781?
I'm under oath telling you that I was reviewing this stuff and working on it almost every single day.
And the problem
because
with
when I was before this committee, I was asked by Senator Ricketts, if confirmed, would I immediately make this a top priority to go through all the grant funding going through EPA to make sure that we were cracking down on every waste, every aspect of abuse, because I have to come back here in front of Senator Ricketts today. And even though you don't care about wasting tax dollars, Senator Ricketts does.
And the problem,
I'm going to do my job because the American public cares about us not wasting tax dollars.
And the problem with your assertion here today is that it is belied by your own employees' sworn statements in court and by the decision of the Department of Justice to admit that what you say isn't true.
You're not grasping the fact that we would have multiple employees looking at these grants. That concept just escapes you like that's even a possibility.
The only thing about that is that that's not true.
You don't care about 99% of this story.
That's not true according to your own employees'
You're not grasping
testimony.
I don't know what to say to you. You're insisting on the fact.
I'm insisting on the facts. That's exactly what I'm insisting on. I'm insisting on the facts, and I now have three different versions of the facts,
that Travis
including Department of Justice lawyers
are working on this every single day
admitted in court that what you're saying now is not true.
We're not going to waste dollars just because you insist on EPA lighting taxpayer dollars on fire. The American taxpayers, they put President Trump in office because of people like you. They have Republicans in charge of the House and Senate because of people like you. Because you don't care about 99% of this story. You don't want me to go through the list of all the evidence of waste and abuse.
No, what I want you to do,
and conflicts of interest.
What I want you to do,
unqualified recipients. You don't care about
what I want you to do is explain why the Department of Justice lawyers representing EPA in court under a duty of candor have said that everything you've just said isn't true. That's what I want. Get me that answer.
I'm here before this committee.
I've exceeded my time. I'll let the chairman take back the gavel.
Thank you. All right. Well, we seem to have a little bit of a disagreement. Perhaps we can work on this in the future about the difference between the discrepancy here. Does that sound fair?
Absolutely. I think getting to the basis and the bottom of this dispute is very important, and the facts actually matter here.
All right.
What we just saw wasn't a normal oversight exchange. It was a cross-examination, a methodical, forensic takedown designed to expose one simple question. Did the EPA tell the truth, or did the story change depending on who was asking? Senator Whitehouse starts by laying out two sworn statements from EPA employees, not rumors, not press releases, but formal legal declarations filed in federal court. One EPA official swears leadership conducted an individualized grant-by-grant review. Another says he personally reviewed the grants. And then Administrator Zeldin himself, under oath, claims he individually reviewed them. Instantly, you can feel the tension tightening. 3 versions, 1 truth. But the number that blows this entire conflict open is 781. 781 individual grants. And Whitehouse does something devastatingly effective. He converts that number into time. A single day, 10 hours, 600 minutes. Which means, for Zeldin's story to be true, an EPA official would have had to review each grant in 45 seconds. No breaks, no analysis, no documentation, nothing resembling any real review. This isn't rhetorical flair. It's math. Cold, simple math. Then Whitehouse uncovers the shift in language, the weasel word, programs. The testimony suddenly refers not to reviewing grants, but reviewing grant programs. And that matters because a program can contain dozens or even hundreds of grants. Reviewing the umbrella isn't the same thing as reviewing the individual grants inside it. And just like that, the foundation of Zeldin's testimony begins to wobble. Then comes the hammer. The Department of Justice, career lawyers bound by ethical obligations and candor, filed a statement in court admitting the EPA did not conduct individualized grant-by-grant reviews. Meaning, Whitehouse isn't offering speculation. He's presenting contradictions in black and white between the EPA's internal narrative and what its own attorneys told a federal judge. When Zeldin insists he personally reviewed everything almost every day, Whitehouse strikes with precision. Show the schedule, show the record, show the documentation. And that's when Zeldin pivots, accusing Whitehouse of not caring about waste, of ignoring 99% of the story, even blaming him for why voters put Trump in office. But notice this. Every time Whitehouse asks for concrete, evidence-based answers, Zeldin responds with emotion, not documentation. Assertions instead of timestamps. Arguments instead of proof. And that's the heart of this clash. One side is relying on sworn statements, federal filings, and arithmetic. The other is relying on deflection and personal attacks. Whitehouse closes the exchange exactly the way he opened it, planted firmly in facts, not ideology. 3 different stories have now been told. Only one can be true, and someone is going to have to explain the discrepancy under oath. This is oversight at its purest and its sharpest. What do you think? Did these contradictions look like simple miscommunication or something far more serious? And should sworn statements that don't match up trigger a deeper investigation? Drop your thoughts, because this one is going to spark debate.